Welcome to the Embodiment Festival 2025. I'm here with Philip Shepherd, who'll be leading this session. And I'm ably supported by Virginia too, but she's kind of on time off. So do message me if you have any questions or something like that related to tech or replays, one of those things. I'm going to give you a very quick overview, a quick bio of Philip, and then we'll get things started. So yeah, this is day one of the Embodiment Festival, 4 days live, and then there's also a chance to watch replays for 3 days. We'll email those to you on January 17. You'll have until January 19 to watch those. People are always asking. So I told you now, we're here for meaning and wholeness with Philip, but because it's day one, there's plenty more to come over the coming days as well, along with the replays. So I do invite you to think of one friend who would actually love this festival. And please do pass on this link in the chat to them, embodimentunlimited.com/festival. Then they can sign up and be sent all the free access and goodies as well. Along with that, we'll also tell you a few things about our flagship course, KEPP. You can get replays from this session as well, along with everything else with lifetime access. So I can drop you a link to that. So yeah, we run this free. We like making the world's embodied wisdom free to all. And then to sort of fund these sorts of things, we sell courses, sell replays, that sort of thing. So if you're interested, you can check out that course. I'll also be passing on a link of Philip's, which I can do now as well. So he's at embodiedpresent.com if you want to go see what he does and enjoy this session. Coming up today, we've also got quite a few more things. So I'll drop the schedule link in the chat, but we're back to back again. So after Philip, we've got Jane and then Mark, and then if in the US, there's also a sort of evening Pacific time or late evening Eastern time session as well. I think that's most things I need to cover. I'll limit myself to 2 or 3 minutes. So I'll just give a quick little overview on who this guy, Philip, actually is. So he's the author of a couple books, Radical Wholeness and New Self, New World, along with more recently, end of 2021, something like that, Deep Fitness, which he co-authored. So he's created the Embodied Present Process, taught online, as well as in workshops, retreats, facilitated trainings worldwide. So he generally switches, tell me if I'm wrong, generally switches over between North America and Europe sort of offerings with that.
And Australia and New Zealand.
And Australia and New Zealand.
Which I love, yeah.
Us lucky people, why they come to Europe? No, it's cool here. So yeah, the practices of the embodied present process help people recognize how their well-being is restricted by a disembodied culture. And as people recover intimacy of true presence, they soften into deeper intelligence of the body, reconnect with purpose, and discover a new kind of freedom and possibility in their lives. So check them out at embodiedpresent.com. And here, take it away with meaning and wholeness, Philip.
Thank you, Steve. Where I'd like to start, and by the way, welcome to you all. It's such a pleasure to be here with you. I personally make a distinction between meaning and meaningfulness. And we are primed to want to establish meaning. And meaning is something you pin down. It's something that gives you certainty. You want to name what is happening and thereby establish it in a way you can hold on to. And in that way, meaning is something that you can only do with abstract symbols. So, for example, the traffic light is green, and you know what that means, and there's certainty to that and no ambiguity. But the process of abstraction is one that, goes back to the etymology of the word. And to abstract means to draw away from. And when we abstract something, we are stripping it of its context. And it's only context that gives something true meaning. What does a smile mean? Well, a smile could be loving, a smile could be cruel. I remember seeing pictures of faces in the midst of passion, and, there was no telling what the passion was. Sometimes it was grief, and sometimes it was joy. Somebody who just won the lottery, for example, their expression resembled that of someone who just lost a loved one. So it's only context that gives meaning to anything. And when you include the context of anything that is alive, that context is the whole. Life is rooted, is grounded in wholeness, and it implicates the whole. So, you might ask, what is the meaning of a tree? And, if you ignore the body's experience, your head might devise what this tree means, but it's devising it in a way that is reducing the tree to a thing. And realistically, a tree is not a thing. A tree is a process. It is changing in every moment. It is adapting. It is growing. It is turning sunlight into sugars. And when you say, well, where does that process end? Like if you want to isolate a tree, if you want to take it out of context, then where's the boundary for that tree? And you might say, well, certainly the roots are part of the process of the tree, but then the moisture around the roots is also part of the process of the tree, and the minerals in the soil are part of the process of that tree, and the humus on the ground that leaches those minerals into the soil is part of the process of the tree, and certainly the rain that falls that leaches those minerals is part of the process of the tree. So the clouds are part of the process of the tree, and the mountains that tend to move the rain out of the clouds are part of the process of the tree. And the sun is part of the process of the tree, obviously. And then the sun is held by the galaxy. So the galaxy is part of the process of the tree. You trace it, and ultimately this process, this living process, implicates the whole. And when you try to reduce the whole to a single meaning, you are depleting not just that context of meaning, but you're shortchanging yourself, I think is what I want to say. You're depleting your own experience. And so, you can ask, what does a grasshopper mean? or what does a grizzly bear mean? Or what does a river mean? What does life mean? What does your life mean? And ultimately, these are nonsensical questions. You can't pin down the meaning of any of them without depriving them of the very context that gives them meaning. On the other hand, and this is where, I distinguish between meaning and meaningfulness. On the other hand, your relationship with a tree can be deeply meaningful. Life can be deeply meaningful. So meaning is something the head gloms onto and isolates. Meaningfulness is something that you open the body to. So this distinction that I make between meaning and meaningfulness, it sort of comes into focus when you recognize that we have two ways of knowing. And, I think of one as head-based knowing, and I think of the other as body-based knowing. Head-based knowing, it's what we've been trained in. It's what we've been conditioned to look to. We regard the head as the supreme intelligence that knows in a way the body can't, and has hold on truth in a way the body can't. And I as you might imagine, I see it in the opposite terms. Um, the head seeks certainty, and it sees the world in terms of black and white. That's what it wants. It wants certainty. It's this or it's that. Whereas, most things are somewhere on a continuum. Um, its concern is with creating a model of reality. And you think, in the course of your day, as you go through it, you might appreciate that you may spend more time thinking about your thoughts about the world than you spend actually feeling the world itself, thinking about the world itself. That's this activity of the head that is tinkering and refining and establishing a duplicate of the world that enables us to organize it and assert control. I mean, that's really what the head wants. And so it does that by excluding. It does that by excluding context. And it excludes, vegetable isn't a category that strawberry belongs into. Strawberry is excluded from that category and put in the category of fruit. And the way in which the head's intelligence works is by excluding. And it is not inclusive. So it tends towards a disintegration, breaking the world into pieces, rather than integration. And that disintegration is where we can find the certainty of meaning. And it's in the integration that we can find the rich experience of meaningfulness. So the head-based intelligence is blind to wholeness. It doesn't feel the whole, it doesn't recognize the whole. On the other hand, the body's intelligence dwells in wholeness. I mean, what the body most clearly feels is the present. And it doesn't pull things apart and analyze them. It feels them in relationship. So there are different ways of understanding these two means of knowing. Ian McGilchrist, who in my view wrote the most brilliant book I've ever encountered, which is The Matter with Things. He's devoted his life to differentiating between right hemisphere and left hemisphere thinking. And what he's found is that the left hemisphere sees the world in a way that is fragmented and systematized. And the other thing about the left hemisphere is it knows it's right. And it doesn't need anything from the right hemisphere. It says, no, I've got the truth. And it is capable of confabulating, of making up wild stories to justify its position. And by contrast, the right hemisphere attunes to wholeness. It is inclusive. It does not exclude the left hemisphere, it includes it. So as I experience my body-based thinking, it doesn't exclude rational thinking or abstraction, but it includes them and includes them through a process of integration. Another way that seems important to me of understanding this difference is that we speak of brain and mind as the same thing. And my goodness, brain is what is in the cranium. Mind suffuses every cell of my body. There's no part of me that doesn't participate in my mind. So mind is body-based and brain is head-based. And in our tendency to confuse them, we lose that rich possibility of coming into felt relationship with the world around us. So just to summarize that, when we're pulled into this search for meaning, we are depleting our experience of the richness of meaningfulness without pinning anything down, without knowing what it means, but just that experience of the body is the experience of our life. And the head, its compulsion is with organizing everything. And you think about that, and the head organizes our thoughts. It organizes our responses. You see someone and you're ready with your response before your body has had a chance to feel their presence and genuinely respond to them. It organizes our emotions. Like there's nothing it doesn't organize. And there is a place for organization. We wouldn't have shown up here on the hour if we hadn't been organized. But when organization becomes an obsession, I think it's impossible to be present. And, that speaks to my experience of the present. When I am fully present, I feel myself being organized by the present. I am being touched by it. I'm being informed by it. I'm being guided by it. And if I've taken charge of organizing myself, I've left no room for that possibility. Ram Dass told a great story. God and Satan were out for a walk one day, and God bent down and picked something up and held it in his hand, and it was sort of glowing and radiant, and Satan was kind of curious, and he said, "What's that?" "This," said God, "is truth." And Satan said, "Oh, here, let me have it. I'll organize it for you." And that story speaks so potently for me to that I'm not going to call it a sin because there's value in it, but that depletion of needing to organize everything. And when everything's organized, when you look around you and you know what everything is, there's no need to feel any of it. You already know what it is. Why would you bother feeling it? So this other way of knowing that happens through the body is a knowing of felt relationship, where you feel the presence of the tree, you feel the presence of that other person, and that quality of feeling that presence is one that is made possible in a way by ignorance, because you don't know where that felt relationship will take you. You don't know what it will illuminate for you. And felt relationship in that regard is dependent on a sort of unmediated receptivity. It's not being organized. It's an opening of the body and the body's sensitivities to what is there, a receptivity that is free of expectation, that has no need to name or objectify. And that willingness to simply feel without needing to pin down or organize is informed in ways that we can't even consciously know. But we are touched and moved and enlivened by that receptivity. And so it's through the body that we come into felt relationship. And when you come into felt relationship with something, you are fully present to it. And, that quality of presence, again, isn't one of objective knowing. It is one of embodied sensitivity. And if you're not, obviously, if you're not present to your life, you may identify meaning in it and status and all the rest of it, but if you're not present to your life, you cannot dip into the rich meaningfulness of it. So presence is dependent on the ability to receive what is as it is without needing to pin it down or contract it into some meaning. It's a willingness to be illuminated by that relationship and carried by it. So the meaningfulness we experience is gifted to us by our receptivity. And that receptivity, I don't see a difference for myself between receptivity and presence. If I'm fully receptive to you, I'm fully present to you. And if I'm fully present to you, I'm fully receptive to you. And we fall prey to this tendency when we want to be present of organizing ourselves. Oh yeah, give me a moment and I'll be present. Just give me a moment, I'll organize myself. And for me, that's the opposite of being present. Being present is this surrender into receptivity that opens me in an uncontrolled way to my relationships with the world. So what I'd like to do is talk you through a little practice that looks at the possibility of receiving without organizing. And where does that take us? And, there's an impediment to this, which is that we are so geared towards what we should give and how we should give it and when we should give it. And we give, to neighbors, to siblings, to parents, to children, to co-workers. And we've got all these cues about what to give and when to give it, but there is no cue in our culture that says to you, now you can just receive without any destination in mind, without working towards any outcome, without any expectation. Just receive. So that's what I'd like to explore with you. And to begin this practice, I'd invite you to just allow yourself to settle. And I think of this settling, I think of a tree in the autumn where it just sheds its leaves. And to feel the way we carry this cloud of expectation around with us and how it primes us and holds us in anticipation, and to just let that soften like those leaves on a tree and let go and gently, gently drift down to the earth. And you're settling deeply, deeply. And as you settle, you feel yourself truly coming to rest on the earth, and give the whole of your body's weight over to the earth. And if you're comfortable closing your eyes, I'd invite you to do that. And gently bring your awareness to the breath. And be aware of all the sensations that every breath bestirs through the body. And see if you can just receive those sensations without striving, without needing to accomplish anything, without needing to name anything, without getting ahead of yourself. There's nothing to get right. There's nothing to reach for. But there is this universe of sensations to receive. And to allow yourself to do that, to simply receive every sensation of the breath moving through your body. And then I'd invite you to bring your awareness to all the sensations of your body at rest on the earth. So where the feet meet the earth, where your body meets the chair you may be sitting on or the floor you may be sitting on. And just to receive those sensations of your living contact with the earth. Again, without needing to get anything right. Discover for yourself how it feels to just receive those sensations. And then bring your awareness to the touch of the clothing on your skin. And this is subtle, and to resist the urge to turn it into something other than what it is, to something larger. Allow your awareness to meet that subtlety and simply receive. Just that. Just receive every sensation from the touch of your clothing on your skin. And at a subtler level still, bring your awareness to the touch of the air on your skin. And again, to allow it to be subtle, to allow your awareness to meet its subtlety and simply receive the touch of the air. No more than that, just receive. You're not trying to arrive anywhere. You're just in this state of open receptivity. And allow your awareness to dilate into the space around you. And allow yourself to simply receive all the sounds of the world around you. Again, can you receive them without needing to identify them or name them? Can you receive them as the pure vibrations that they are? And just receive them if you can through the body. To allow those vibrations to register through your flesh. Just receive without needing to do a thing about it. And then, as gently as you can, allow one arm to lift, just gently, aimlessly lift. And as it does, allow yourself to just receive the avalanche of sensations that accompanies every subtle little movement. Again, there's no destination in mind. There's nothing to get right, but can you receive that universe of sensations that every little movement bestirs? And even as the arm comes back to a place of rest, receive, receive, receive. And allow your awareness to dilate into the present. And can you simply receive the present in its wholeness? Again, without needing to organize it or make sense of it, just to feel it. This moment in this place. Just receive it in its wholeness. And when you feel ready, allow your eyes to open and see if you can just receive whatever your gaze falls upon, and to receive it without needing to identify it or name it, to receive the colors, the shapes, the textures, to just receive and to feel those colors, textures, shapes in your body. Can you receive the sights of the world into your body and allow your gaze to shift around and just receive without needing to hold on to any of it? To just receive into your being the colors, the shapes, the textures that your gaze falls upon. And with your eyes open, can you again bring your awareness to the present as a felt whole? And without striving, can you simply receive all the currents of its subtle life? To receive it with the recognition that you can't understand it, but you can feel it. And receive each sensation as a revelation of the present. And allow the present to seep into you in all its transforming sensitivity. In this moment, in these swimming currents of the present, there's no objective meaning. But this experience of the present, this receptivity, illuminates our lives in the most meaningful way possible. And that brings the practice to a formal close, but I hope that's not a taken to mean step out of it. It's not taken to mean leave your receptivity behind. If you leave your receptivity behind, you leave your presence behind. You switch into that other way of knowing, which has value, but is so limited in its access to the richness of life itself. And I look forward to any questions you may have, but I'm going to turn it over to Steve for a sec.
Thank you, Philip. And I'll come back both to Philip in a moment just to give us sort of a takeaway from his session if he so desires, and then to continue on with questions. So if you have those, I'd encourage you to sort of type them in the chat. So even if Philip would like to hear you say it out loud verbally, you've kind of clarified it before, so that you sort of thought about it a little bit as well. One thing I'll say is I really appreciate Philip's practices, not only for a practice or what he's saying, but deeply embodying the presence he talks about as well. I just feel at ease as I sit here within a session. So thank you for that as well, Philip.
Thank you.
I'll add in here as well. Oh yeah, and please do make your comments in the chat to Philip as well. So as I mentioned at the start, please do think of one friend who'd enjoy the festival and pass this link on to them as well. They can catch a replay of Philip's from Friday and have 3 days to do so, for example. And if you want to as well, you can check out Philip's work at embodiedpresent.com. And finally as well, I'll say that if you do want to sort of discover or learn how to coach with a range of embodiment tools that be on show at this festival, we have KEC, which is our certification of embodiment coaching. So it's a link to that there as well. Embodiment Unlimited. Embodied Present is something to check out, but embodimentunlimited.com/KEC as well. So I'll just do a quick share of what's coming up. and then I'll throw back to Philip for questions. So here's our schedule. Finally, on that note of allowing and receiving versus giving, Vidyadasa tomorrow morning will actually do a session that explores those, I happen to know. But later on today, in 25 minutes, we've got Jane coming up with women's embodiment, Mark going over the foundations of embodiment coaching, and then trauma and self-care with Candice. Tonight, if you're in the US, potentially tomorrow at all sorts of weird hours if you're in Europe or somewhere else. So check those out, and plenty more days as well, which is why I said do share this with anyone who may be interested. That's what Philip's site looks like if you want to go check that out, whilst here's Keck if you want to learn more about how you can become a certified embodiment coach. But I think that's about it from me for now. So I'll have a look in the chat, or if you noticed any questions yet, Philip, or how would you like to do this? Anything you want to read out? You want me to find them, or?
I've been sort of keeping track of them. There was one question, do you record your guided meditations? Yeah, I have. Somehow I have over 250 recorded guided meditations. And on my website, I think there are 7 free guided meditations under resources on the tab. So by all means, check out those. I also have a membership. It's $25 a month, and you get 2 free weeks, and it puts out a guided meditation every week, a new one every week with journaling prompts and worksheets to help. You know, the way I developed this work was I'd feel some gap in my sensitivity, and I would go to it and be with it for as long as it took to resolve it. And that's what the guided meditations do. They're targeting a gap, a way in which our culture has desensitized us to the world and to ourselves. And to live with that for a week is what the membership provides as a way of resolving that. And then you know, and there are over 100 guided meditations as part of the membership. I don't know if there are any other questions. Did you notice any, Steve?
One person asked for an organized answer to what % of our day can one hope to be organized by the present versus organizing it?
Well, this sort of brings me to enlightenment. You know, I don't think we achieve enlightenment. I think the present is enlightened, and we can join it and partake of that. And I think that what people call, you know, enlightenment is an ultimate surrender to the present, to its life. And just to say, you know, we have so distanced ourselves from this other way of knowing that we have lost sight of what it has to offer us. And I have to go back to indigenous cultures for myself to recover a sense of that. So, for example, there's a Unangan culture, which is on the islands that trail off Alaska and separate the Bering Sea from the Pacific Ocean. And there's an elder who is with us still, who is raised in the Unangan traditions. And he says, you know, he would spend time as a child with the hunters. And the Unangan culture has a sacred relationship with the sea lion in the same way that Plains Indians have with the buffalo. And the hunters would be sitting on the rocks at the ocean's edge, still, not talking, not daydreaming, just alert. And they would be there for hours. And then one of them might say, sea lion coming. And all the heads would turn and look in the same direction. Now that sea lion might be 10 miles offshore, you know, way beyond what could be seen with the eye. But they could feel its presence. And our bodies have this capacity to attune to the present that has guided our species until, we started to migrate into the head. And what we've done is we've lost our sense of harmony and our ability to join that harmony, and we've substituted control for harmony. And it's the body that brings us back into that state of harmony. Do you think so there are some people who need to orient more toward receiving and the beautiful practice you led us through, and others more towards giving? I don't see an abrupt break or differentiation between receiving and giving. What I mean by that is, in my receptivity of the present, I'm not moving into a passive state. I'm moving into a state in which it becomes possible for me to be activated by the present. As I receive the presence, I am guided, I am prompted, I am moved into service. And, my life is fulfilled through service. And it's a service not that, I've made some decision about. It is, I think this is true for every one of us. We're all born with a specific cluster of gifts that no one else on earth has ever had. And the world is whispering to us to put those gifts into service at every moment. And it's only through the body that we attune to that whispering and find the ability to follow its guidance. So service and receptivity are bound together, and as are receiving and giving, in my mind anyway. Yin yang, exactly, Christina. Yeah, I mean the what is created through this dance of complementary opposites. That's how the world moves, and in receptivity, we avoid the need to come out of wholeness and simplify that congruent, evolving, indescribable dance into a black or white phenomenon. And when you are in wholeness, there is ambiguity and paradox, and these are not contradictory things. These are inherent in wholeness itself. And our tolerance for uncertainty is something that only a deepening trust in embodiment can support and uphold, in my experience anyway. Thank you, one and all. I think we're to the end of our allotted time, and I don't see any more questions. What do you think, Steve?
No, I was just going to say thank you again. If you wanted to finish with a single sentence of anything or a little takeaway for people, I know that it's hard to do so, but if you feel like giving the closing message, feel free, and then I'll unmute everyone, let them say goodbye, thank you, or whatever in their first language, close the room, and then reopen it in about 5 or 10 minutes for the next session. So
yeah, I mean, there is something I'd like to offer, which is that the quality that brings us into felt relationship, which again is distinct from known relationship, that quality is gentleness. It's as you feel the presence of the tree gently that your body opens to it. As I'm putting my granddaughter's arm into her sleeve, it's the gentleness that enables me to feel her in her wholeness and guide it in, rather than fighting it in. And we are moved out of gentleness by a culture that is harsh and mechanical and driven towards economic outcomes at the sacrifice of so much else. So to be gentle with yourself, to be like, how gently can you feel your breath? There's a beginning to embodiment. Just how gently can you feel your breath? And how gently can you come into the world through that quality of felt relationship? That's what I would like to leave you with.
Thank you very much, Philip. Now, everyone, if you would like to say thank you, goodbye, or whatever else in your first language that's wholesome and meaningful, I'll allow everyone to unmute, and you can do so. Press pause and record so your face isn't recorded. So there you go.